And part of the reason we said that, there was many reasons, but number one was they had a slideshow, and we were proven spectacularly right. Obviously, later about many things, but right up front, there was a leak about how the top general did a presentation about this is how we enter 4 stages. This is how we enter Baghdad. This is how we take control of the capital and of the city, and then who do we put in charge? And stage 4 was what do we do when we occupy Iraq? And it has 3 famous letters on it: TBD, to be determined. In other words, we invaded Iraq, took it over without a plan on how to run it. And now here comes the Don Road dumbass doctrine coming in going, we now run Venezuela. Our oil companies are going to be richer. He literally talked about the oil companies being richer. I'm going to give you quotes in a second. Congratulations, Donald Trump's donors, oil companies, defense contractors. Yes, there's a smidge or maybe a lot of Israel in there as well. But overall, the point is donors, donors, donors. And congratulations, I give you the president of an entire country of Venezuela for donating to my campaign and making me rich and famous and powerful. This is insanity. What are we going to do when we're running Venezuela? TBD, to be determined. We don't know. Okay, I'm going to come back to Trump's speech, but first, what I promised you. Nicolas Maduro's vice president is Delcy Rodriguez. According to their constitution, she would not be in charge. And the First Lady, Celia Flores, is not relevant constitutionally, but is relevant in terms of perception. She has been kidnapped along with the president. She's also on a U.S. ship. She's apparently also going to be charged with charges. They're pretending that this is about drugs. No one believes that because it's not true. Venezuela is a relatively low drug-producing country. There are countries that produce far more drugs, not even close. Venezuela doesn't produce any fentanyl. Fentanyl is what kills most Americans. It is the most obviously fake reason for attacking a country in the history of America. They barely tried. The difference between this and Iraq is that they tried to sell the BS of the Iraq war for over a year, and they pretended there was weapons of mass destruction.
Well,
they pretended
that was fast.
Links to
The United States has captured Nicolas Maduro, the now former president of Venezuela, in a daring overnight raid. It has been very much a blink-and-you-might-miss-it affair.
He just doesn't do
Those
any
of us in the United States went to sleep not knowing anything was happening and woke up to find out that Venezuela no longer has a leader. Literally, the headline at 2 a.m. Eastern information about what went on. Venezuela has a vice president who at least at one time was not completely untouchable by the U.S. government. In theory, she should now take over as president, unless, the Venezuelan military steps in to stop that. So maybe the status quo is not quite as clear as I just described.
I'm pro-war. This guy was trying to win a peace prize a minute ago? FIFA gave him a peace prize. What a bunch of pathetic losers. By the way, the Nobels these days is no better. The Nobel Peace Prize went to someone who wanted to topple the Venezuelan regime. She talked about doing it with force. She then started weirdly talking about doing it for Israel. It's insanity. It's insanity. She doesn't deserve a peace prize. She was literally trying to start this war. And now there's talk that she might be the new vice president. Now that we've done a war for God knows what, for oil companies, for other countries, etc. I'm going to get to the transition order in a second.
I'm just going to a few different other avenues, trying to see what's going on, seeing what people are saying.
Then again, that also assumes that she wants to remain in power, which might be a risky strategy given that the United States so easily reached the last person in power, who was presumably better ready for such a capture operation. You can bet that the United States is already putting out some feelers with a gentle suggestion that she perhaps consider overseeing a transition. If that is the way this goes, then in short order, we will see a temporary government of Venezuela established, likely looking toward its very long-run opposition for leadership, because it seems that the war was over before most people knew that it started, and well before anyone in Maduro's counter-coalition could lift a finger to militarily help him. Undoubtedly, the operation is going to give everyone in Moscow and Beijing a very long day. China worked with Venezuela's oil industry, and now that connection seems to have ended overnight. Even Russia had an oil connection there. Despite both being oil exporters, Venezuela needed assistance with its production. It was one of the few places that Russia could look for foreign financial support, and it is also gone. Politically in the United States.
Well, we don't know that. A lot of hearsay, a lot of words right now. A lot of moving parts. Trying to get a grasp of it myself. Oh look, propaganda. Jeez Louise. I'll watch this later. So you're gonna see a lot of different angles on this. This just happened. Not just happened, but oh my goodness. Oh, it's 3 days into a fantastic year, and we have already gotten ourselves into a very, very long, very long.
Afraid no, I don't want to hurt you. Little more come near, let me just.
Joe is great. You're doing a great job. What a good team.
But I meant, why did you make the decision to take out Maduro this morning? And what was Maduro doing when our guys came in on him?
So we were going to do this 4 days ago, but the weather was not perfect.
Yeah, so one of the big things that we're seeing reported is I think this was actually what he wanted to do on Christmas, right? So initially, this is what he wanted to do on Christmas, but apparently Nigeria took precedent. I have to double check, but that's what a lot of the initial reporting appears to have been. We also then saw this was supposed to have several days earlier, like Trump just said, but the weather wasn't ideal. And so now we're seeing this. But here we have another clip here.
So, tell us about it.
It was slightly busy, I would say. It was very dark all over, especially in Venezuela. The team did an incredible job. They rehearsed and practiced like nobody's ever seen. And I was told by real military people that there's no other country on earth that could do such a maneuver. If you would have seen what happened, I mean, I watched it literally like I was watching a television show. And
I have a lot of different thoughts about everything that's happening, things that we're going to talk about more.
Yes.
When this is done. But I just got to say, just from a pure top-level thing, what was done, and then hearing the man slurring through an explanation of it, causes concern. Here we go. Keep going.
If you would have seen the speed, the violence, they say that.
I know some people saying it sounds like he's drunk. This is just old age. This is just old age. Like, yeah. I do believe it when he says he doesn't drink. This just sounds like a fucking crazy old man. Here we go.
The speed, the violence, they use that term. It's it was an amazing thing, an amazing job that these people did. There's nobody else could have done anything like it.
You're at Mar-a-Lago right now. How were you able to watch this?
Well, we watched it from a room. We had a room, and we watched it, and we watched every aspect of it. We were surrounded by lots of people, including generals, and they knew everything that was happening, and it was very complex, extremely complex, the whole maneuver, the landings, the number of aircraft, which were a massive number, the number of helicopters, a different type of helicopters, different type of fighter jets. We had a fighter jet for every possible situation. And they just broke in, and they broke into places that were not really able to be broke into, you know?
How does he describe everything in detail while saying it in the vaguest terms? We're going to continue this really quick, but I just want to get ahead of this. To the people sending super chats, thank you very much. We have Bosch1 saying, huge shout out to the No New Wars president, by the way. 3 years into the new year, immediately bombed a country. Someone get this man a second FIFA Peace Prize. Then we have Jay Shua saying, thank you for the 20. Genuinely, what the hell are American people supposed to do? This is just
America is not behind you. This ain't like the Afghan war and the Iraqi war, where you got to come home and be celebrated as a hero, have romantic movies made for you in Hollywood. No, America is like what the fuck right now.
Can you please?
So understand.
Don't call
if this ever get, I hope this gets to some fucking Navy dudes. If you are in the Navy, if you are in the Air Force, and you are behind the bombing of Caracas, Venezuela, America is not behind you. You will not be celebrated as a hero. You're a piece of shit.
We're really scared what precedent this sets up. Here we go. We have George Classic. Thank you for the $4.99. Brit. As a Brit, I'm genuinely worried about this. Could this start of Mexico and Colombia hostility to the U.S. Did Congress approve? Help me understand, Phil. We're going to be breaking it down a little bit here, but we are going to be talking about this, obviously, next week when the Phil Franco Show is back. I'm going to still try and get through on this. We have the Real Just Saint. Thank you for 10, saying, I'm mixed on this. I have no faith that this won't be another Iraq, Afghanistan, or Libya. I doubt he has any plans for power vacuum left in the place of Maduro. Didn't we learn anything from the past? So I am very interested to see how this is going to play out. We've seen the opposition party there saying we are ready to take charge, but there is supposed to be a breakdown of power in the case of things. We're also hearing a lot of mixed things. There are some that are claiming that this was an agreed upon thing to take him here, and then people are speculating even further about what's going to happen with the charges here. We got to see. We got to see what the hell this is going to look like. Also, for people asking about the text-to-speech, I think we set it at something ridiculous so that the text-to-speech wouldn't kick in, and we'd be able to kind of control and go to the super chats when they pop up, on our own time. Other than that, so I think it's like 100 plus. So do not do that. You do not need to do that. That is
charred military vehicles and buses were still smoldering at daybreak in Caracas on Saturday, as residents expressed shock after the U.S. strikes hit military bases in Venezuela and removed President Nicolas Maduro.
Mark Warner, top down,
Many people stayed home as Venezuelan security. Those who are out, some express hope
worst case scenario, if anyone starts taking
while
it,
people like Baker, Franklin Jimenez, concerned that this will create an even worse conflict than the one we have now.
Mark Warner, top
and that we all have to go out into the streets to defend our homeland, to defend ourselves. But excitement is in the air for supporters of the opposition, led by Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Corina Machado outside the country. Venezuelans celebrated in Peru with people like Milagros Ortega talking of returning home.
My dad, being a political leader in Venezuela, was able to see this change. He used to say, "Daughter, when you go back, when this government leaves, you'll return to Venezuela." And to know that my dad in his lifetime was able to see the fall of Nicolas Maduro, look, for me it's an emotion. I would like to see his face.
Since 2014, around 7.7 million Venezuelans have left the country, according to the UN International Organization for Migration. Venezuelans living in Spain also rejoiced at Maduro's capture, while they tried to get hold of friends and relatives still in the country. Some of them are sheltering at home. A few other people in Caracas went out to stock up on essentials. Some of them are concerned that they may now have to hunker down for a prolonged period, uncertain of what is to come.
Well, instability, no set parameters. So the only thing I do know that is consistent is talks, let me go back to this here. She's still in play. the true purpose of like why they did the operation, things like that, like that's all up in the air. But this is the primary thing to focus on. Like she is in play, and she's had words of her own. I will get this footage shortly, but she is looking like she is going to resume power. She's allegedly spoke to Rubio over the phone, but again, I will continue to navigate this angle primarily because that's where you want to go first. Like, what is the military and her, like, how is that flowing? Like, what's going on there? So
la inmediata liberación del presidente Nicolás Maduro y de su esposa Cilia Flores. Único presidente de Venezuela, el presidente Nicolás Maduro. Desde exigimos la inmediata liberación del presidente Nicolás Maduro.
So this is what I was saying. If anybody that was like, what we talking about earlier, like you don't know the full story, you don't know what you're talking about, sure. But there's multiple reportings. Venezuela's acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, states the country will never be a colony of any nation, and that Venezuela will only ever have one president. So she's infirm. Again, it's just like. Okay, and he's en route to New York.
We got nothing here.
I am not going to try to sort this out because again, there are too many moving parts. But like I said, my focus travels to what it means for them, like within the next few months. Obviously, other partners and work. People have been mentioning like, what is Russia and China going to do? But again, that's not how this works. Like, big event reaction from other countries. That's far more other steps that need to be looked at besides just that. So, not other steps. Far more other factors need to be like figured out. And my sneaky suspicion that a lot of this stuff is already in play and behind closed doors, so we're not going to know reactions and specific.
Mira, la vaina es bien en serio. Mi gente.
They've been making these memes. Rubio is not going to be the president of Venezuela, guys. Alright, so we'll temporarily run Venezuela. What is the role of Congress? Yeah, so many people are also saying like this is technically considered an act of war, a sovereign nation. And like he's supposed to get approval from Congress, and then it's like clearly it's not the case. Let's see what this channel says.
Just a beautiful Florida day. If anyone ends up going live outside of the AP feed, please let me know. Okay.
Come on.
I'm gonna leave the audio there in case you hear a random thing. And then you have what's next.
But history has shown, Mr. President, critics will say that strong action can risk escalation, but history has shown us that weakness can truly invite chaos. And this military operation clearly sends a message to our adversaries around the world, China, Iran, Russia, that we are no longer the weak administration that we had for 4 years under former President.
Yeah, those in the chat throwing out approve or disapprove of Venezuela invasion and Maduro capture does not, if you disapprove, does not mean that you support Maduro. People are wanting to clarify that.
Exactly.
And Biden, who tolerated narco-terrorism. What is next for the...
If you're sent, that's the boats. It's sort of related to this, as you know. The drugs are way down, and it's getting very, very tough. It's a whole different look. We have a whole different country. We have a country that's respected. We have a country. I built the military in my first term, and they gave a little chunk of it away, but it was
okay. So
lot,
this is false. So she's not in. Okay, there we go.
But they gave it to Afghanistan.
Delcy
so
Rodriguez.
stupidly. It was one of the. Compare this to Afghanistan, where we were a laughing stock all over the world. We're not a laughing stock anymore. No, we have the greatest military in the world by far. We have the greatest military equipment in the world by far.
Mr. President,
he sounds. That's the thing. I mean, once again, I think it's just his age.
U.S. Special Forces capture Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro in a daring
after a very
attack,
inebriated night following the Bama and Georgia losses. It's a mixed family. Some are some shout "Roll Tide," other are dogs. Both not happy.
Impactado de que sea la República Bolivariana de Venezuela víctima y objeto de un ataque de esta naturaleza que tiene sin duda alguna tinte sionista. Es realmente vergonzoso. Lo dijo nuestro padre libertador en la Carta de Jamaica. El velo se ha rasgado, ya hemos visto la luz y se nos quiere volver a las tinieblas. Se han roto las cadenas, ya hemos sido libres y nuestros enemigos pretenden de nuevo esclavizarnos. Si hay algo que el pueblo venezolano y que este país tiene muy claro, es que jamás volveremos a ser esclavos. Se activa toda Venezuela y el decreto que ya fue suscrito por el presidente Maduro, único presidente de Venezuela. Hay un solo presidente en este país que se llama Nicolás Maduro Moro. Queda ya.
Yeah, so it's a lot of
Bill Trump appears live. They're setting up the camera. Here we go. Okay, am I able to play that again? There we go. We have Papa 150, thank you for the 5, saying Obama, Bush, and Trump have all bypassed Congress and invaded. The only president that didn't was Biden. This is nothing new, but I'm still concerned, right? So there we have Popple saying this is kind of like there's an equivalency here, talking about it. Also giving some love to Sleepy Joe, because back when Sleepy Joe was here, you had the ability to sleep. America Sleep, thank you for the 5, saying regime change is always...
Rubio would be... you said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship going?
I understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially willing to do what we think is necessary to make Venezuela great again. Very simple.
Nah, from the clips I just saw, it doesn't sound like she's as willing as he's stated, but we will see.
The police of the world. Why do you think the world hates you all? Well, hey, I think parts of the world hate us for a lot of different reasons, at different times. No. Let's see. We have Drive Incident and Pictures 1554. Thank you for the 20, saying so. If we're going to remove dictators that cheated on elections from power, does this mean Putin is next? Not Vlad. Vlad's Trump's boy. Vlad's Trump's. You know, here's the thing that's really that's really interesting, and it's not specific with Vladimir Putin. It's I think we're going to be able to back out of this in a second.
This is I don't think
it's something that we've seen really with Putin and Zelensky recently, where it feels like every time he talks to someone, he is just in favor of who he last spoke with, and that's unfortunately for me at an earlier time in my life very relatable, but that is very, very concerning when you're talking about international diplomacy. Vlad Trump's boo. It seems like it at times. Every now and then he's like, that guy, why I ought I, but I can't quit him. I can't quit him. Oh no, some people coming into the chat going, wait, we did what? Yes, it appears that we struck Venezuela, appears that we invaded Venezuela, and appears that we captured or abducted Maduro, depending on your take on it. But once again, there's a lot of different narratives flying around right now over if there's some sort of deal beforehand.
A lot.
How does it feel now in Caracas, and how shocked were you when you heard this news?
Change right now, just a leader change. The regime is still in place, FYI.
Now in Caracas, it's...
I think it would be weird to just go after Maduro, no? Unless it's to show that you have the capability. Wouldn't that be one of the biggest things?
But the problem is when you show the capability, doesn't that doesn't that give people another notice, like, okay, this is exactly how it was done? Like, I don't know. And then you got some people like, oh well, it's about the oil again. You got that crowd too. We'll go to them next, but I just don't know if that sends the message that you need it to send. More confusion.
Anything that you just want to show that you have the capability, it's like a stance, because otherwise it feels like you'd want then for other things to happen, probably with different people in power. Let's see. We have Rabbi saying, my question here, thank you for the 200, whatever currency that is. My question here is if the U.S. will take care of the refugee crisis and civil war that might unleash after this. 1 second.
Yep.
Will the U.S. will this United States take care of the refugee crisis and civil war that might be unleashed after this? Come on. Come on. You know the answer to that. You know the answer to that. Oh no. Oh no. People in the chat going after each other, calling each other bots. Very interesting. Very interesting. We're seeing this going on. All right, let's we're gonna continue.
What a time! What a time!
I fucking knew this guy was gonna be late. I knew he was. If we were right wingers, it would sound like
inside help with our two other guests. So, Tamir, let me ask you a couple of questions about this. I want to come to that point in a moment, but you are the only person on this panel who knows President Maduro. How do you think he will have reacted? You know his personality, you know his behavior. How will he have reacted to what has happened?
Well, I believe, like anyone else facing the attack of a mighty military force, of course, he must have been overwhelmed by the attack that happened last night, which I should remind is a unilateral military attack of the United States. Even though it was announced, that still, as mentioned, it's still a military attack of the United States armed forces on the capital of Venezuela, a country that hasn't
oh my God,
made anything or taking any violent initiative vis-a-vis the United States. And
what
even
does
more
good
so an attack to achieve exactly the opposite of the platform that President Trump was elected on, achieve a regime change that hasn't even been achieved, because as the news have unfolded, President Nicolas Maduro has been abducted. That is also something that should be underlined. Something, an action that is illegal under international law and under any legal framework. So President Maduro has been abducted,
Oh,
but
lordy.
the power structure in Venezuela, following the statements of the Minister of Defense, the Vice President of the Republic, even though her whereabouts are, at least to my knowledge, not known, and the Minister of Interior, so the power structure is still in place. So how can this attack be justified to extract illegally the president and members of his family? And at the end of the day, the power structure of Venezuela remains in place. So we of course need to wait and see for what will happen. But at least at the very first, should we recall that this, irrespective of the opinion that anyone may have about the Venezuelan government, this is a very dangerous, illegal military attack against a sovereign nation and the people of Venezuela.
Timur, we'll come back to the legality and what happens next in more detail, but just drawing on your knowledge from being in the inner circle of Hugo Chavez and then Nicolas Maduro, and I know that you left Venezuela some time ago and you don't have fresh information, but one assumes every head of state has the tightest security. Can you see a scenario where US forces broke in and took the president without there being some inside help?
I imagine that, I mean, in geopolitics and in national politics, I was, for instance, present in the presidential palace in Venezuela in 2002, when a military coup backed by the United States again back then was conducted against then President Chavez.
Just getting some updates from all over.
At least for some hours, President Chavez then, in an effort to avoid
I can't stand these people.
And you know, generating
they can't take
more
this seriously.
uncertain.
Not this right here. This on the side. Like, I can't stand these people. Like, of course the memes are coming in. It's extremely serious, but I can't stand these people. Like, just please, just for face value, yes, sure, this is very serious, concerning. A lot of conspiracies get thrown around, but for the love of God, just let's focus on the task at hand, please.
Agreed to be removed from the palace, even though the military forces reinstated him afterwards. So the issue here is that the United States has been assuming in the past that pressuring the Chavistas and pressuring President Maduro would generate an internal fracture of the power structure. I think this is relatively unlikely, and the fact that they had to conduct a military operation on the Venezuelan ground.
That's a conspiracy,
I mean,
or
it's
not like a theory I haven't heard yet.
To prove that if they wanted to remove President Maduro, they had to conduct a military operation. I don't see why there would, be a need for an internal complicity. That, in theory, can be possible. But in that case, why this deployment of military force? Why bombing civilian infrastructure? We have been informed that ports have been struck, that some civilian infrastructure within Caracas, residential areas have been struck. So why this deployment of military force if just a complicity inside the power structure of Venezuela was necessary? No, I think, once again, we need to focus on the fact that the U.S. had to resort to military force in order to achieve whatever the goals are, and so far the goals seem to be the removal of President Nicolas Maduro.
Richard, let's be...
All right, let's do some final notes on this. So the attack happened, not the attack. This operation. Maduro is in U.S. custody. We'll be heading towards New York. Oh my goodness! I expect dozens of different philosophies and theories throwing in sprinkles of conspiracies, people memeing to God, heaven, about everything under the sun. What I think about this, it does not matter what I think, but there's just several violations here of decency, and this, I can't say this is the process that should have been taken. I can't say this is how this process for this procedure should have gone, and it's not the procedure he should have taken. However, it's done. So the bigger stories are following this, not just what the accounts say, like people who are trying to push propaganda for all sides, but just like following the insides of it. Like, okay, what does this do? What are other partners saying of both sides? Like, that's what we're going to be following. So I'm all over the place with this because I just like to throw a lot at the screen and then just see, because I'm gonna be honest, there's a lot here. So as someone who is not the greatest with the messaging, I do leave you with this. So we have a lot of moving parts, and we're gonna see what, especially like how the U.S. moves forward with this, because it's clearly gotten out of hand. It's so out of hand. We're just not even gonna. I don't want to think about all the ways that this is just not. Again, there's just so many things that's just so wrong about this. But as I've mentioned, I have to get a move on, because I would love to spend another hour on this, but I just wanted to get this out really quick. And yeah, I will see you guys later. Peace.